Hey, what's up, everybody? So, for today's video blog, I want to talk about podcasting. On on the 31st of March, and then on April 1st, posted the final episode of the Lane podcast. It's a podcast I did with Jake Williams and Brad Stark, and it was all about MOBAs. It started out about the MOBA from Riot Games called League of Legends, and then over time it kind of morphed and kind of focused on Vainglory, Heroes of the Storm, dabble in a little bit of Dota 2, but for the most part, those like three main games were what we talked about. We talked about changes, updates, and kind of what was happening in the world of those games. But after almost 3 years, it kind of came to an end. I posted a link, I posted like a long article, and there's a link on my Twitter to like why we stopped it over on Medium. So definitely check that out. I included in the comments here and the notes as well. So, but man, podcasting, it's tough. For anyone that's like looking to get started, like it seems super easy. Like all you have to do is turn on the mic, hit record, and then you go. But building that audience, building that community with your fans and people that are listening, it's tough. Uh, yeah, for the most part, like haven't had like a huge success with any of the podcasts I do. I've been doing one called Hopcast for a long time now, and that has a pretty good following. A lot of people listen and interact with us on Twitter, but uh, we don't put as much effort behind it as we used to. It's kind of just kind of a fun thing we do. That's kind of how I've always seen a lot of the podcasts that I do is just like fun thing to talk about, kind of goof around with friends and just kind of get behind. I haven't really used any to like get sponsorships, get money, do any of that stuff. So maybe I'm going about podcasting wrong. But I was just do podcasts because one, I enjoy the topic I'm talking about, whether if it's craft beer, cartoons, video games. But taking a project and any project, especially something after 3 years, and just being like, this didn't work. Like it just wasn't going where we wanted to. Our hearts weren't in it. We weren't passionate about those three games anymore. And we just had to hang up the towel on it. I think that's something you need to learn like maybe sooner. I think there's Gary Vanderchuck talked about at some point like, oh, what? How long have you been doing that? 6 months. I did this thing for like 3 years before I got anything. And so it's really hard to say like, oh, something's not working. Like, when do you decide like this isn't right? Let's change it up. Let's move forward with something else. Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that, but we didn't stop the show because it wasn't working. We stopped the podcast because it wasn't what we wanted to talk about anymore. So that's probably a good way to look at like when you want to stop a project or end a project is, are you behind it anymore? Like if you still like talking about it and it's a year, 2 years later and you want to just keep going, then go, right? But if it's 6 months in and you're not seeing the return you want and you don't want to talk about it, then yeah, by all means stop, because I think your viewers, your listeners, people you're interacting with can tell when your heart's not in it. And I knew on Lane that I just wasn't behind the show anymore. Like there was something about like when we talked about the games or the topics that I didn't care about or didn't have anything to say about. I just didn't know because I wasn't up to speed on some of those games. Like I maybe glaze over and kind of phone it in. So that was kind of my moment where I was just like, guys, I'm not adding value to this show anymore. Like, and that's how we all felt. So yeah, think about like what you're doing with your podcasts and like how do you want them to grow, where do you want them to go, and if it's a topic that you can keep talking about weekly or even daily, like Christ, the people like a Daily Tech News Show or any of those shows that do it every day, like I don't know how they do it. That's so much work. Even the morning stream? I know Jake Williams, who did the lane and does Toon Talk with me. He listens to that sometimes, and they do that every day. It's like a radio show kind of morning zoo kind of thing. It's like, whew, I have a tough time like weekly podcasts, just getting them edited, recorded, planned, and posted, and shared and hyped and all that stuff. So man, don't think podcasting is easy. Don't think video editing and video blogging is easy. Like, it may seem simple before you start doing it, or even streaming. I know streaming, man, that's a whole nother ball game of building the community. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, just knowing, I think, when to call quits on a project and move on to something else is kind of what I've learned from ending the lane and kind of moving forward here, and just kind of what I wanted to talk about on today's video blog, just about ending that. But yeah, check out the link to the post. I'll include in the notes here, and be sure to follow me on Twitter, and I'll be back with another video soon. Cheers.